Dan, thanks very much for joining us for this session of our 5G Summit. And I think it's going to be a great one, really. Over the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to get a chance to explore some of the ways in which 5G really is a whole of government project in a way that I really don't think has ever been true, at least to this extent, with any previous generation of wireless technology. And if you, just one example, if you glance through the National Strategy to Secure 5G Implementation Plan that NTIA just published in January, you really do get a sense for how 5G is a national priority for the interagency. It frames it as not just a cybersecurity issue, but also a national economic security issue. And the strategy really is not just about security in the sense that we usually think about security. It specifically calls out the need for federal agencies to facilitate 5G rollouts here in the US. And yeah, to do that securely, but also to make it a national priority to maintain US leadership in 5G developments and standard setting through things like focused R&D and building even better acquisition processes for the government to invest in 5G technology for its own uses. There is a lot to talk about, and we may end up just scratching the surface of some of the things I mentioned over the next hour, but we've got a great panel for it today that I think gives us a really good cross-section of that whole of government work and how agencies are collaborating with industry on this big effort. Dan Elmore is with us. He's the executive director of the Wireless Security Institute at the Energy Department's Idaho National Laboratory. Tao Zhang is manager for the Emerging Network Technologies Group at the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Jody Little is with us from the Air Force. He's the executive program manager of the 5G Next Gen program at Joint Base San Antonio. And Bob Zapataki is senior principal architect for AT&T's global public sector business to give us a little bit of an industry view on all this. And Dan, I think I want to start with you on this. If you could just begin our conversation by talking us through what INL specifically is doing to contribute to the cause here, both from a research and experimentation perspective and from kind of a convening and collaboration perspective, because my sense is you're doing quite a bit of both.
Yeah, hey, good morning. Thanks for the question. Happy to kick us off. INL's been in the wireless cellular arena for about the last 18, 19 years. And so starting with second generation cellular all the way up now to 5G. And so our focus as an applied research and development lab is really on shorter term solutions. 2 to 3 years is our research horizon. We're postured with an R&D arm, right, if you will. We're looking a lot at things like millimeter wave, which we may touch on later in the segments about new spectrum areas that we're going to capitalize on with 5G, looking at how to employ that securely. We're doing things with drones, as 5G rolls out and agencies increase their use of drones or military with UAVs and such, driven by 5G networks. What does that look like? And then on our range, we've got a large external wireless test range that enables customers, clients, research associates, university partners, et cetera, to validate these solutions at scale, right? With 4G backbone now, with a 5G backbone and architecture coming in to our range this summer. So really to take from laboratory concepts to how do you validate it independently that a mission critical application, say, is going to do and serve what it's intended to serve and do it so securely.
Yeah, I'll follow up just a little bit on that. Maybe talk a little bit about who those range users are. I mean, is it exclusively for INL's own use? I imagine not. I imagine you've got a lot of partnerships both with other agencies and with industry.
Oh, right. No, it's not ours at all. It's over the years we've been doing cellular and wireless work, right? We've got probably about 120 different, mainly federal entities that have come and utilized the range for various configurations, purposes, a lot of Defense Department work, a lot of other agency work. We're doing some development work for, say, the Drug Enforcement Administration, right? How to securely use wireless devices in certain applications. It's open to universities. Typically, universities don't end up coming here. There's some funding issues and that. National Science Foundation currently working an initiative setting up some spectrum innovation zones. And as a potential part of that, right, there may be some funding provided to enable universities to access capabilities such as ours.
Tal, let me come to you next. You've got a career's worth of experience figuring out how to connect and secure what we might call edge devices over wireless networks. I think vehicles has been a big research area for you. From your perspective, when you think specifically about 5G, to what extent is it an evolutionary step in capability for connecting those sorts of things in fog computing versus evolutionary versus revolutionary?
So in terms of revolutionary capabilities of 5G, it comes in two major categories. So one of them is, of course, the sheer capacity and capability, or KPI in 5G's terms. So significantly higher overall capacity and data rates, a number of connections to be supported, and so on. So that allows you to support a wider range of applications that was impossible before, and a lot more and diverse different applications and devices. But even more importantly, I think, is the other aspect of the innovation. That is the desire and the promise to provide differentiated or even optimized support for different types of applications. And that is almost a prerequisite for IoT type of applications, for the advanced applications, like, for example, automated driving, like, for example, factory automation, all of those newer type of applications that people desire for 5G to support. They don't need just sort of bigger pipes. They also need special and optimized treatment. And also the edge computing is another aspect that fills sort of this puzzle. So edge computing actually, the role is growing. Edge computing allows you to deliver even better performance. As everybody knows, it allows you to keep your data close to you, and that's important to many government agencies, for example. And so it plays a very important role in supporting automated driving and factory automation and so on. But it also has another role that actually is to increase and enhance the security protections of the local systems. So they can provide a range of newer and more innovative security protection features right next to you, from managing and updating security credentials to authenticating local devices. You can do that locally as opposed to relying on a remote and a cloud, to establish trust relationships, to the list goes on. However, there is an interesting new direction, and to solve a dilemma people have been facing. So on one hand, many users want their data to stay local for many reasons, for privacy reasons, for regulatory reasons, and for performance reasons, and so on. But in the same time that AI and machine learning is being applied for everything now, and you need those data to train your AI and machine learning models. Today, you do that by shipping the data to the cloud. You don't do that locally. You don't have enough data locally. You don't have the processing power locally. So then you got into the dilemma. On one hand, you want the data to be local. On the other hand, you need them somewhere in the cloud. So what do? And that basically leads to the next frontier of edge and fog computing. That is what we call edge learning. So ways for the edge nodes to actually learn from the local data in a collaborative manner, for example. So that's, let me stop there because the area is so large before I go on too much.
It is, and maybe we can come back to that piece. But I actually wanted to circle back to a place where you started, which is 5G being able to enable differentiated and optimized support for applications as opposed to just a bigger pipe. Spend another beat or two talking about what you mean by differentiated and optimized in that context, if you would.
Yes. So one of the biggest promises of 5G is to support a diverse and larger range of applications, from automated driving to automated manufacturing and to a lot of different services. So those services require different KPIs. Some focuses on, some has very stringent delay requirements. Others have very stringent reliability and data rate requirements and so on. And so the previous generations of telecom network from 1G to 4G focused on providing connectivity and then one size fits all connectivity. So all of the applications runs on the same network and no network provided differentiation at all. So that is the biggest, one of the biggest roadblocks to supporting those diverse range of applications that 5G promises to do. So you can't just support all of those diverse applications by providing a bigger pipe, because network can get congested randomly, and so your delay is going to vary too much. So that wouldn't allow you to, for example, support remote driving or telemedicine or remote control of machinery for manufacturing and so on. So you really have to provide differentiated services from the network perspective to those different applications. And so not only that, you have to keep the applications and the performance and the security protections you provide to those different use cases separate so that they don't interfere with each other. So 5G created this new service-centric architecture. It has this concept of network slicing, which is an end-to-end virtual network that runs on the same physical infrastructure, which you can dedicate to a specific set of applications or users. However, I want to point out that, as you know, 5G has been deployed worldwide. So from the current, if you study the current deployment successes and failures or problems, what you'll notice was that 5G has been very successful in delivering its first promise, that is bigger pipes. And it's lagging way behind in delivering the second promise, that is differentiated or optimized services.
Super interesting stuff. Jody, I saw you nodding your head at almost everything Tal was saying there. Feel free to chime in on any of that, but start us off, if you would, by just giving us a quick overview of what you're working on at Joint Base San Antonio. I know you were selected as tranche 2 of DoD's pilot projects. Talk a little bit first about some of the specific things that you're experimenting with there.
We have 2 experiments we're doing at Joint Base San Antonio. There's 12 sites right now in the Office of Undersecretary of Defense Research and Engineering portfolio. We have 2 of those. One is telemedicine and medical training, 5G supporting that, and the second one is 5G core security. So on the telemedicine, the reason I was shaking my head when Tom was talking, we're experimenting building prototypes, separate prototypes to support the differentiation that he talked about, including the slicing, secure slicing in there. In the telemedicine, we're working at medical training for the DoD medical community. We're working with telehealth records, which require substantial amount of security in that. We're working with telesurgery, which is pushing the envelope a little bit to support some of the reliability and redundancy that's needed there. We're also working with putting out what we refer to as telepresence, telementoring, where the doctors can support doctors that are working out in an area where we wouldn't have the expertise through the high resolution, for example, augmented reality, ultra high definition video, and so on. And then there's one other experiment, and that's pushing this out into the a STUR environment where you have medics out in the field supporting it. So that's one experiment. It takes advantage of everything that Tal was talking about, including the secure slicing. And across those experiments, we're touching everything. That's, for example, the telehealth is looking at many sensors. So we're looking at orders of 1,000 sensors or better to support the needs of the DoD medical community. It also, if you go over to the robotics, it has a different flavor and a different set of slices. When you take all of these together, they have they have to work with and coincide with each other to support the true medical needs that the medical community needs. And the interesting thing is the DoD medical community has a really good handle on the medicine. Where they need is to get it out to the point of care. And 5G offers that promise. And we believe it's going to revolutionize the way DoD medical care works. We're already seeing results in several areas. Our other experiment, which is 5G core security, is looking at exactly that. We're looking at security and interoperability. So if you think about DoD running in a set of servers, server stacks of one manufacturer or one software type, if you will, on the stack side, and then other applications running another one, they still have to be able to reach through various networks. For example, different telecoms in different parts of the country. You go overseas, you run into other telecoms. Then you get into what they call the gray networks, where you have third world and some funny networks. And then finally, we have to be able to support tactical networks on that. And we're looking at security for interoperability. We're also looking at slicing and network virtualization functions to support that. And finally, we're looking at reliability and redundancy of 5G in those areas. And the last experiment we have going in conjunction with some of our DoD partners is doing a full recurring assessments of 5G cores and 5G in itself from a DoD standpoint.
Very interesting. Time for us to take our first break. You're listening to the 5G Summit on Federal News Network. Back in just a minute with our guests.